Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, we are approaching the end of the 4th canto, and the 30th and the 31st chapter we are trying to overview today, and so we will get into that. As we know, this is the history of King Prachinabarhi and his sons, and in the previous chapter we have seen how, by the mercy of Narada Muni, this King Prachinabarhi was able to attain perfection. That is where he spoke about the history of a character. He created a character, a story about a Puranjana, and then how through that instruction this King Prachinabarhi could attain perfection. That's what we saw. Now, now in the 30th chapter of the 4th canto, entitled The Activities of the Prachetas, we are seeing Vidura asking questions to Maitreya about what happened to the Prachetas, who are the sons of King Barhishma. So, that is what is the subject matter of this chapter. In the 24th chapter of the 4th canto, Maitreya begins speaking about the history of the Prachetas and how they meet Lord Shiva, and then Lord Shiva teaches them that prayer which is entitled the Rudra Gita, and how they are chanting. So that is where he left it, and then he got into the history of Prachinabarhi, who is their father. So now taking the discussion back to what happened with the Prachetas. So Vidura is asking, what did the Prachetas achieve by satisfying the Supreme Lord with the Rudra Gita? Certainly they were transferred to the spiritual world, but what did they obtain within this material world? So one thing is that by offering prayers to the Lord, one will definitely get to the spiritual world. At the same time, one will also get so many wonderful facilities in the material world as well. So Vidura is asking, what are the benefits they have achieved? And then Maitreya is replying to Vidura that the Prachetas underwent austerities inside the ocean and satisfied the Lord by chanting the Rudra Gita prayers. And the Lord was very, very happy that after 10,000 years, the Lord appears in front of the Prachetas and mitigated their austerities by soothing beauty. So, in his very beautiful form, the Lord appears. But it took just a very small period of 10,000 years for the Lord to be satisfied by prayers. And why we say this is because devotees are always very impatient. So when we read the Bhagavatam and the history, when we say that, the darshanam of the Lord is very durlabham, they say, that it's very durlabhya vastu, the Lord is. So here, he was labhya in a period of 10,000 years. To Dhruva, he was available in a period of 6 months. So depends on your austerity, depends on time, place, and circumstance. Here, the Lord became happy in 10,000 years. So he appeared. In the next 2 shlokas, the next 3 shlokas actually, the how beautifully the Lord appeared is explained in the next three shlokas. The Lord appeared in the eight-armed form with weapons in each hand, transcendental body covered by yellow garments, Kaustubhamani, garland, and the bodily effulgence of the Lord dissipated the darkness of the universe. He wore a dazzling helmet and was surrounded by sages and demigods. Garuda, his carrier, glorified him with Vedic hymns by flapping his wings. With a merciful glance, the Lord mercifully addressed the surrendered Prachetas. So the Lord's glance here is described as mercifully glancing. The Lord always watches, looks upon all the living entities with mercy only. We must understand that it is always with Karuna that the Lord is looking upon the living entity. Other personalities may be looking at the living entities in a Raudra Bhava or something, but the Lord is always looking at the living entity with Karuna only. And then he says, my dear sons of the king, I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask a benediction from me. All of you are engaged in one occupation. What? Devotional service. I am very pleased by your friendly relationships. So they are very close together. These Prachetas, these sons of Prachinabarhi, they are praying to the Lord also in a very friendly, get-together manner. So the Lord is very pleased with that. So Srila Prabhupada says in this connection that the unity of the individual souls attempting to satisfy the Supreme Lord or rendering service to the Lord is a real unity. So real unity means getting together and rendering service to the Lord. So that is something that is very pleasing to the Lord, and therefore the Lord is saying that I am pleased with your service, so you can ask something. And then Lord says that people who remember you, the Prachetas, they will have very close friendships with their brothers and other living entities. And he says also that those who glorify me with this Rudra Gita, such people will receive my benediction to fulfill their desires and attain good intelligence. So Rudra Gita will fulfill desires and also make us very intelligent. And then the Lord says, because you have accepted with pleasure, executed with faith the orders of your father, your attractive qualities will be celebrated all over the world. Another very important thing that we see here is that this is not only here, in many other places we will find the Lord is saying that I am very pleased with you because your father gave you an instruction and you followed that. Father's character may be whatever. That the Lord is not. See, very nicely the Lord is saying, because with all humility you accepted and you came to do this tapas. Because one thing is that the father gave instruction. Another thing is that the instruction given by the father is actually ultimately beneficial. That they engaged in devotional service to the Lord. So it's not that father gave instruction to go and loot somebody and then the son perfectly looted, so the Lord will immediately become happy with him because you followed the first, not like that. But all spiritual instructions, good instructions, dharmic instructions given by elders, following that also pleases the Lord. One must understand that. Because the Lord also proved that it is a very great thing to do, to follow the father's instruction. You know, as Lord Ramachandra, the Lord followed his father's instruction and went to the forest. Although circumstances were such that the Lord could have done differently, but he did not. Not just because he was a supreme Lord that he would go unquestioned if he did not hear Dasharatha's words. But even as a king, if he had not listened to Dasharatha, like Lakshmana advised him, that nobody would say anything wrong about you. But still, the Lord chose to listen to his father's words. So here again, the Lord is saying that I am very pleased because you people have followed the instructions given by your father and you have worshipped me. Therefore, you will have a famous son. whose progeny will fill the three worlds. So the Prachetas are getting benediction from the Lord that you will have a son, he will be a Prajapati. And then the Lord says that there is one Apsara previously called Pramlocha, and she was married to Kandumuni, and they have a daughter named Marisha. And that Marisha is left in the care of the trees. And the child was very small and crying. Chandra came and poured Amrita into her mouth. So this Marisha is a very special person. So she's saying that you will be marrying her. So that is the Lord's benediction. Now, many of you may wonder that finding a wife for these people, is that such a great benediction? Or is that what the Lord is supposed to do? So we would have to point out that previously also the Lord did this matchmaking business for somebody else. That is for Kardama Muni. Also, the Lord only did matchmaking for him also. So this is another way when Lord says that I will do anything for my devotee. So this is also one of the ways that Lord can do anything for his devotees to find a proper wife, because Prachetas, they are very spiritually powerful people, and therefore in order to create proper progeny, this is the Lord's arrangement that you will marry her. And then he says, enjoy all facilities of this world and heaven with full bodily strength and without hindrance for 1 million celestial years. After that, you will develop unadulterated bhakti unto me, freed of all material contamination and attachment, you will go back to God. So, there is no question that Lord is asking them to enjoy material happiness, all material enjoyment. And how is that favorable to bhakti? So the Lord himself is giving the answer to that. The devotees understand me as a supreme enjoyer. They offer all their results to me and discuss topics about me. Thus, they are unaffected by the results of their actions, although in family life. So these are all, many times we are having all these kinds of doubts. So many of those doubts will get answered in this 30th chapter, where the Lord is giving this benediction to the Prachetas. So I suggest that all of you go through the 30th chapter, so you will get some very interesting, very encouraging words from the Lord himself. And then the Lord says that those who are engaged in bhakti, they are ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. They are never bewildered, they are never lamenting, and they are not unnecessarily jubilant. After the Lord spoke thus, the Prachetas started offering their prayers with Gadgadaya Suhruttamam. So with very filled up, choked up voices and completely in ecstasy, having seen the wonderful form of the Lord, the Prachetas are glorifying. In slokas 22 to 32 of the 30th chapter of the 4th canto, we find the Prachetas are offering their prayers to the Lord. This is a very wonderful section, a prayer section. Namo Nama Klesha Vinasanaya Nirupito Dara Gunahvayaya Namo Vacho Mano Vacho Vega Puro Javaya Sarvakshamargair Agadadhune Nama Shuddhaya Shantaya Namaswanishtaya Manasya Bhartham Vilasadvayaya Namo Jagatsthanalayodaeshu Grihitamaya Gunavigrahaya. So they are giving such very wonderful prayers, explaining the qualities of the Lord. Klesha Vinasanaya, one who is relieving klesha, And he has got wonderful holy name and all auspicious qualities. And Mano Vacho Vega Puro Javaya. The Lord is faster than the mind and the words and cannot be perceived by material senses. It's a very similar verse to the one that is there in the Ishopanishad. When you see, you will find that. They say you are pure, peaceful, and fixed in your Sarupa. You make the material world of duality appear meaningless. Your appearance as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are meant for creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this cosmic manifestation. And then they also say that Namo Vishuddha Sattvaya Haraye Harimethase Vasudevaya Prabhave Sarva Sattvata. In this, there is one word, that Hari Medhase. This Hari Medhase word, Srila Prabhupada, he is translating it as one whose brain that works only to deliver the conditioned souls. Haraye means this word Hari that I think everybody knows. The word Hari means one who steals. That is why when you keep on saying Hari, 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 you are asking the Lord, please steal, please steal, please steal. So be very careful whether you want to chant the name of Lord Hari or not, because he will steal and he will steal everything. When you come to that highest level of Lord Hari steal, then you become the Gopi in Vrindavan and he will come and take away your end product, which is the butter. You see now this Hari, Haraye, Hari Methase, Prachetas are saying from their level of knowledge and everything, they are glorifying the Lord. And how this Hari Methase of the Lord is working, we will see in Vrindavan Leela. You understand? Taking away all the miseries of his devotees, that is Hari Medhase. That means that Medhasa, the Lord's brain is always working, thinking how to relieve my children out of their painful situation. That is Haraye Hari Medhase. So they are saying that, and then they say Namak Kamalanabhaya, Namak Kamalamaline, Namak Kamalapadaya, Namaste Kamalekshana. They are talking about his eyes being Kamala, his feet being Kamala, and Namak Kamala Maline, always wearing a lotus garland. And from your abdomen sprouts the Kamala on which the entire creation is. Namak Kamala Nabhaye, out of whose Nabhi, Garbhodakashai Vishnu, out of whose Nabhi, this, what do you call it? The entire material creation is sitting within the stem of that lotus that is sprouting out of the Supreme Lord. And to that Lord, they are offering their obeisances to the Prachetas. Your non-material garments are yellow like the saffron dust of a lotus, and you are all-pervasive supreme witness. So they are also making the point that although you look as if you are wearing yellow garment, but that yellow garment is not the, the regular yellow garment that you find. And then they also speak a very wonderful verse, which is Rupam Bhagavata Etad Asesha Klesa Sanshayam Avishkritam Naklishtanam Kimanyad Anukampitam. To deliver conditioned souls from their miserable conditions, you mercifully advented in this form. What then can be said about your mercy upon the devotees to whom you are always so favorably disposed? They are saying, you are taking all these wonderful forms. Why? For the Baddhatma, for the conditioned soul to be relieved from this situation you are appearing. So when you say conditioned soul, it includes everybody, devotee, non-devotee, karmi, barmi, whatever you want. All are included. And they are saying, then just imagine, what wouldn't you do for your devotees? What wouldn't you do for your devotees? As Archa Vigraha, you are the killer of all inauspicious things. Being compassionate on your pure devotees, you appear as Archa Vigraha. In Kali Yuga, the Lord is appearing as Nama and he is also appearing as Archa. Nama, the easiest way. And Archa, practically, the Lord is in his Archa form becomes dependent on his devotee, just like how Lord, Supreme Lord, Swayam Bhagavan appears as the son of Nanda and Yashoda, and in that state, as a small child, he completely became dependent on Yashoda. Right? For everything, she was dependent. Similarly, the Lord in his Archa Vigraha form becomes dependent on his Archaka. Whoever is doing the Archana, the Lord is depending on him. No? If the Lord has to be bathed and dressed properly, he has to depend. If the Pujari does, he will be bathed. If the Pujari dresses, he will be dressed. Because of his mercy, he decides, okay, now I am giving you opportunity, you do. So to that extent, that Prachetas are glorifying, oh Lord, you are so merciful that you are appearing as the Archa Vigraha, and as Super Soul, you know the desires of every living entity and you fulfill all of them. We are satisfied that your leadership is the ultimate goal of our life. We do not desire anything other than your satisfaction. We shall therefore pray for another benediction because you are the unlimited supreme beyond all transcendence with endless opulences. So then, Lord said he can give any benediction that they want. So now they are going to ask what? They are going to ask Sa Ananta iti giyase. Because you are the unlimited Ananta, we are going to ask what boon. And before that asking, they are saying, what further benediction may we ask of you? We have already taken shelter of your lotus feet. A bee that has approached a parijata tree does not have to leave it. That means, having approached, taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, no more benediction is required actually. Because the topmost benediction is that, what? Be surrendered at your lotus feet. And then, in the 33rd shloka of this chapter, they make one very wonderful prarthana. They make a very wonderful prayer. That is the benediction Prachetas are asking, and that's a very wonderful benediction to ask for. Yavatte mayaya sprishtha brahmama iha karmabhi tavad bhavat prasanganam sangasyan no bhave bhave. They are saying, as long as we wander in this world, brahmama, because of our actions contaminated by maya, mayaya sprishtha, we want the association of devotees who discuss your pastimes life after life. So they are saying, as long as we are in this material situation and we keep, taking birth again and again because of our material situation, the only benediction that we want is that as long as we are in this situation, let us always have association. Sangasyan no bhave bhave. What sangha? Tavat bhavat prasangana. So we want the sangha of those who are engaged in your prasanga. We want the sangha of those who are engaged in your prasanga. Because anyway, we are brahmama iha karma bhi. Because of our karma, we are continuing our birth and death in this material world. So as long as we are getting this repeated birth and death, at least let us have the association of those who are always engaged in your prasanga. engaged in your speaking your words. That's a very wonderful benediction, don't you think? And they're saying, Tulayama Levanenapi Naswargam Nabunarbhavam Bhavat Sang Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya Martyanam Kimmutashi. This is a very famous sloka. Even a moment's association of a pure devotee cannot be compared to being transferred to heavenly planets or even merging into Brahman's effulgence in complete liberation. Tulayama Lavenapi na Swargam na Punarbhavam Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya. One who is Bhagavat Sangi, one who is the associate of the Lord, one who is always associated with the Lord in devotional service. Bhagavat Sangi, one who is always in Sangha with Bhagavan and Bhagavatam. Sangha of such a person. Tulayama Lavanenapi, that is lava. So much, little bit of that is more than enough. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Haya. And then they are saying, the next two shlokas, they also discuss the effects of hearing Krishna Katha. Wherever the pure topics of the Lord are discussed, they are giving the effects. The effects of Harikatha, four effects they are saying. Trishnaya prashamo yataha, all material hankerings are satisfied. Nirvairam yatra bhuteshu, there will be no fear, no anxiety, there is no envy towards others. No dvego yatra kaschinaha, there will be no fear, no anxiety. Yatra Narayana Sakshat, Lord Narayana will be personally present there. Bhagavan Nyasinam Gati, the Lord is the goal of all the renounced devotees. Nyasi means one who is going near. Samstuyade Sat Kathasau, he is worshipped by Krishna Katha and Sankirtana, by who? Mukta Sangai Punapuna. Those who are liberated from this material contamination, they keep chanting your name again and again. So, and they are saying that your devotees wander and purify even holy places. Thus, they please those who are afraid of material existence. By a moment's association of Lord Shiva, we have attained you, the expert physician capable of treating the incurable disease of material existence. This is Prachetas glorifying Lord Shiva as, after saying all these things, Lavenapi, even a very small amount of association, what great result it can bring. The Prachetas are now saying, look at our own example. We just got very brief association of Lord Shiva. And today, the Supreme Lord is in front of us. All our spiritual assets are offered for your satisfaction. Then they are saying, even the great yogis and mystics cannot fully understand your glories, yet they offer prayers according to their capacity. So do we offer our prayers to you, the Lord, who is equal to everyone, never contaminated, the Supreme Person, the Transcendental, one who is living everywhere and one who is always in the transcendental position. So like this, the Prachetas are concluding their glorification of the Lord, and then the Lord departs and the Prachetas are coming back to the land. So the Lord, he will depart from there, and the Prachetas are very, after seeing the Lord and the Lord is leaving, they are very, very overwhelmed, because the association of the Lord is only, it is not as if they have spent days and days with the Lord. It's just that Lord came, heard their prayers, gave his benediction, Lord leaves. 10,000 years they did, and they got only this much. That is why Brahma said, that you people, aho bhagyam, nanda gopa vrajaukasam. He said that you, Nanda Gopa, and all the Vrajaukasa, all the people in the Vraja, what is your aho bhagyam? Why? Because Yanmitram Paramanandam. He said that the Supreme Lord, Purna Brahma Sanatanam, he says, no? That Purna Brahma, who is eternal, that he has become your Mitram. He has become your friend. Here is it 10,000 years and they got this much association. There they are getting association day after day after day after day after. So just imagine, not to say that the Prachetas' bhakti is in any way poor or anything, but in comparison to the benediction that is received by the Vrajavasis, nothing can be compared to that. And then they come and they marry this girl, Marisha, and Daksha once again takes birth as Daksha from Marisha as a Prajapati again. And then for the Chakshusha Manvantara, that Daksha only becomes the Prajapati and all living entities are created out of him. So Prabhupada says in the purport that because Daksha, originally he was killed by Lord Shiva's Bhuta and then he got that other head. But that punishment was not enough. So because originally Daksha is the son of Brahma. So that means he's a Brahmana. Now again he will be born to a Kshatriya in order to completely take away his reactions of having offended Lord Shiva. Just imagine. So offend Lord Shiva at your own risk. So that is how the 30th chapter gets concluded. The 31st chapter, Narada Muni comes to the Prachetas and he is giving some very valuable instructions. That is the subject matter of the 31st chapter. The Lord told the Prachetas that they would become disgusted with their kingdom and finally they will attain him. That prediction comes true in the chapter 31. The Prachetas detach from their kingdom, leave for the forest, and they attain Krishna by taking up the path of bhakti as instructed by Narada Muni. So initially they got, see, these Prachetas are very lucky people. Initially they got Lord Shiva as their guru, then finally they are getting Narada Muni as their guru. After living at home for thousands of years, the Prachetas finally remembered the Lord's blessing and left home, leaving Marisha in the care of Daksha. They went to the seashore where the sage Jajali was residing. After perfecting spiritual knowledge under him, they became perfect in Krishna consciousness. While they were doing all their yogic practices, Narada Muni comes there. So immediately they received Narada Muni, they gave him a seat of respect, and then they start inquiring from him, starting with, it is our good fortune to see you. Always when you see a great personality, this is how one must begin, by saying that it is my great fortune to have met you. You see, when the Shaunaka, the rishis are meeting Sutta Goswami, what do they say first thing? It's our great fortune that we have met. Why? Because you heard from Shuka. When Shukadeva is entering the assembly, what does Parikshit say? You are so great. Actually, I am a very Vishayi king. But because I had some connection with Krishna, no? Because my great-grandfathers were fully surrendered to Krishna. And because you are so attached, so you have come to give me your mercy. How fortunate I am. Every time we open a book of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, you must first remember how fortunate I am to have met Srila Prabhupada through this book. Because through that book, Srila Prabhupada is giving Krishna to all of us. So like that. So they are saying, please give us transcendental knowledge, which acts as a torchlight to cross the dark innocence of material existence. So then Narada Muni explains to them the next few shlokas how devotional service is the goal of all spiritual practices. The birth, activities, lifespan, mind and words of humans are perfected by devotional service unto the Lord. Narada Muni says, A civilized human being has three births. One is Shaukra, which means the seminal birth. Then there is the next birth called Savitra. That is when they get the Upanayanam. That is the first initiation. And then Yajnika. Yajnika means the next, where you are initiated to perform Vedic sacrifices. And then there are the activities instructed in the Vedas, and that includes Vedic education, austerity, and how to utilize that. And then Narada Muni says, but in spite of doing everything, if you are not realizing God, then yoga, Sankhya, Swadhyaya, all the punya karmas that you do, everything will become useless if Kimva yogena sankhyena nyasa swadhyayayorapi Kimva shreyobhiranyescha na yatratma pradohari. So if you can't realize Lord Hari, Narada Muni says everything is useless. Huh? That means without bhakti, none of these things will come to their completion. And then he says that it is the Lord who is actually the source of self-realization of all auspicious activities. The Jivatma is the factual goal. For the Jivatma, he is a factual goal or destination. And by watering the root of a tree, energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything else. Yatha taror mula nishechanena tripyanti tatskanda bhuja apashakhay pranopajharat yatendriyanam tathaiva sarva haranamachyutejya sarvarhanamachyutejya. So Narada Muni says that just like, when you water the root, the entire plant gets fully enlivened. Similarly, by simply worshipping the Lord, you will satisfy everybody and everything. Everything and everybody will be satisfied simply by the worship of Supreme Lord. That very specific instruction is given by Narada Muni to the Prachetas in this particular chapter. And then Narada Muni says that the universe is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord. The sunshine emanates from the sun and is not different from the sun. Similarly, universe emanates from the Lord and is not different from it. Therefore, the Lord is all pervading in the universe, just like the sun. The senses appear manifest in the waking state and unmanifest during sleep. Similarly, the universe sometimes appear manifest and sometimes unmanifest. So, Narada Muni, by giving these two examples, he is explaining to the Prachetas how the Lord is the cause of everything and how he is pervading everything. So that is explained by Narada Muni, because they are also asking Narada Muni that please give us the knowledge by which we can understand. And clouds, darkness, and light appear and disappear in the sky in succession. Similarly, energies of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva appear and disappear in the Lord. They all seem to be, appearing and disappearing, but everything is there only at the material platform, all these three gunas, and they do not exist in the spiritual platform. Therefore, the Lord with all these qualities, one has to simply engage in his service. Tenaikamatmanam aseshadehinam kalam pradhanam purusham paresham swatejasa dvashta guna pravaham atmaika bhavena bhajadvamadha. The Lord is one, the super soul of all living entities. He is the remote and immediate cause, the supreme person and the transcendental controller. He is aloof from material interactions by spiritual energy. Therefore, engage in his devotional service, thinking yourself qualitatively one with him. And what are the wonderful qualities that the Lord has? Dayaya sarva bhuteshu santushtasya yena kenava sarvendriyopashantaya cha tushyantyasu janardana. By showing mercy to all living beings, by being satisfied somehow or the other and controlling the senses, one can very quickly satisfy the Lord. And Narada Muni says the devotees are cleansed of all material desires, freed from material contamination, and constantly addressing the Lord with very deep feeling. And the Supreme Lord is controlled by his devotees, and therefore he never leaves them. And the Lord relishes the activities of the devotees because they have no material possession. And they are very happy because they are possessing the most important thing called bhakti. At the same time, if somebody is very puffed up with his material education, wealth, aristocracy, and fruitive activity, the Lord simply neglects him. He does not accept the puffed up people, but simply accepts that bhakta, who is although maybe aginchana, meaning he has nothing, but then he has the one thing that the Lord is very pleased with, that is bhakti. The self-sufficient Lord becomes dependent on the devotees and does not even care for the goddess of fortune, kings and demigods. Which grateful person will not worship the Lord? So like this, Narada Muni gives instructions to the Prachetas and return to Brahmaloka. The Prachetas attained the Lord's abode, hearing from Narada Lord's glories that vanquished all ill fortunes of the world. The Prachetas also became attached to the Lord. Meditating on his lotus feet, they advanced to the ultimate destination. Now Maitreya is concluding his talks to Vidura, says, thus I have narrated the conversation of Narada and the Prachetas describing the glories of the Lord. And Shukadeva Goswami says to Parikshit that now I have described the dynasty of Uttanapada, the son of Swayambhu Manu. So this entire thing started from Swayambhu Manu, Uttanapada. Now this Swayambhu Manu has got another son. In between, his daughters also came, Akuti, Prasuti, Devahuti, and everybody. That history also over now. Now he says, now there is another son of Swayambhu Manu named Priyavrata. So now I shall speak to you about the dynasty of Priyavrata. So fifth canto actually begins with the narration of the dynasty of Priyavrata, who is another son of Swayambhu Manu. So Vidura is very happy having heard all these things from Maitreya. Vidura fell at the lotus feet of Maitreya and fixed the Lord within the core of his heart. By your causeless mercy, I have been shown the path of liberation. Following this path, one can return back to Godhead. This is Vidura telling Maitreya that I am very thankful to you, my dear Gurudev, that you have given me this instruction. By following this instruction, I can go back to Godhead. And thus taking permission from Maitreya, Vidura started for Hastinapura to see his devotees, to see his relatives. And actually Vidura's idea of going back to Hastinapura is not to see the relatives. In fact, he wanted to talk to Dhritarashtra and get him detached from his situation and get him also ready to leave the body. That was the whole idea of Vidura going back to Hastinapura. Those who hear the topics about the surrendered kings obtain a long life, wealth, reputation, good fortune, and ultimately the opportunity to return back to Godhead. This is the Falashruti of the Pratetas Charita. So all of you will obtain long life, wealth, reputation, good fortune, and ultimately an opportunity to return back to Godhead. So I hope everybody is happy with this Falashruti. So thus the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam gets concluded here. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam Grantharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.